When I refused to split the cost of a shared fence, my neighbor took it down entirely and said, "If you won't help build it, you don't deserve protection." That night, I heard footsteps in my yard and saw someone watching through my window. When I told her what happened, she smiled. "I told him you were too proud to lock your doors." As I ran to my front door, I heard a creak from the hallway. That meant I moved into my house in Fort Smith, Arkansas almost a year ago. It was my first real home after years of renting, and I'd saved up long and hard to afford it. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. The yard was big enough for my dog, the street was quiet, and I liked that there were trees behind the property. I thought I was finally settling into something good. The house next door was owned by a woman named Brenda. Late 50s, wore those big fake pearls and always had lipstick on her teeth. She introduced herself the first day I moved in, carrying a plate of cookies and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She gave me her whole life story right away: widowed, 2 grown sons, retired teacher, blah blah. Then, out of nowhere, she asked me if I'd be willing to go halfsies on a new privacy fence between our yards. I barely had the boxes unpacked. I told her I'd have to look at my budget. Honestly, I wasn't even sure if I'd stay in the house long term, so I wasn't eager to throw money at something I didn't think was urgent. The fence was a little old but still standing. Some loose boards, sure. But it did its job. She brought it up again a week later. This time, she had printed out quotes from 2 different fencing companies. One of them was close to $5,000. I asked her, again, why she thought it was so urgent. She started talking about property value and how the neighborhood aesthetic was important. That's when I realized she wasn't asking, she was trying to pressure me. I told her straight, "I'm not paying for something I didn't agree to, Brenda." Her smile vanished in a blink. She just stared for a second and then said, "Some people don't understand what it means to be a good neighbor." I should have known that wasn't the end of it. 2 mornings later, I woke up to my dog barking his head off. I went outside and saw the entire fence between our properties was gone. Torn out completely. Not a single board left behind. All the posts, the slats, everything, gone. I stormed over to her place, still in my pajamas. Before I even knocked, she stepped outside like she'd been waiting. "If you won't help build it, you don't deserve protection," she said. And she walked back in and slammed the door. I stood there, stunned. I called the police, thinking there had to be some kind of rule about tearing down a shared fence. When the cop showed up, he told me unless I had proof I paid for the old fence, or a written agreement about it being shared, it legally belonged to her. And if it was hers, she could take it down. But I could tell from the way he looked at me, he thought it was shady too. He just couldn't do anything. From that day on, Brenda wouldn't even look at me. She kept her smug little smile every time I mowed the lawn or took out the trash. It was like she was proud of what she did. And with that fence gone, my yard felt like a stage. My back porch light barely lit half of it. Anyone could walk in from the trail behind our street and be at my back door in seconds. That night, I didn't sleep well. I kept hearing things, little snaps and thuds. My dog barked a few times, but I figured it was just squirrels or whatever. But around 2 a.m. I was dozing off on the couch when something made me sit up. A noise. A crack, like a stick breaking. I muted the TV and got up to look out the back window. That's when I saw him. There was a man standing in my backyard. He wasn't moving. Just staring at the house. He had on a hoodie, jeans, and boots. I couldn't see his face, but I could tell he wasn't a neighbor. He didn't belong here. He walked slowly up to the back door and tried the handle. Thank God I had locked it. I panicked. My heart was pounding. I grabbed my phone, but before I dialed, I looked toward Brenda's house. And she was there. Standing on her back step, arms crossed, like she was waiting to see what would happen. I threw open my door and yelled, "Do you see that guy in my yard?" She didn't even pretend to be surprised. She looked me dead in the eye and said, I told him you were too proud to lock your doors." Then she smiled. That's when it hit me. She knew him. I slammed the door and locked every window. My mind was racing. Was this guy going to break in? Was she watching just to see if he succeeded? I turned to run toward the front door, thinking maybe I could make it to my car, but that's when I heard it, a soft creak from the hallway. The hallway that led to the bathroom. There's only one board in that spot that makes that noise. And I hadn't walked on it. Someone else was in my house. I didn't breathe. I stood frozen in the middle of my living room, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. That creak wasn't my imagination. I knew that sound. I knew exactly where it came from. Right outside the bathroom. My bathroom window was one of the only ones that didn't have a lock. It was small and high, but it opened if you pushed hard enough from the outside. And with no fence now, yeah. Someone could have slipped in, easy. I grabbed the fireplace poker, the closest thing to a weapon I had. And moved slow. I didn't say anything. I just kept my ear toward the hallway, listening. Nothing. I edged closer. My hallway's short. Only 3 doors, bathroom on the left, linen closet at the end, and my bedroom on the right. The bathroom door was halfway open. I held the poker tight, ready to swing. I reached out and pushed the door the rest of the way open fast. Empty. I backed up and opened the closet. Just towels. No one. Bedroom. I stood outside the door for a good 10 seconds before I pushed it open. My bed was untouched. No one hiding behind it. No one under it. But the window above my dresser was wide open. That window had been locked earlier. I always lock my windows at night. Always. That guy had been in my house. I don't know for how long. Maybe just a minute. Maybe longer. Maybe he got spooked when I slammed the back door or turned on the light. But he'd come and gone, quiet as hell. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even sit down. I waited until morning, then went straight to the police station. Told them everything, Brenda's comment, the guy in the yard, the creak, the open window. The cop I talked to looked bored. He took the report but said unless there was forced entry or something stolen, there wasn't much they could do. I asked if they could talk to Brenda. He said unless she admitted to knowing the guy, they couldn't really charge her with anything. I felt like I was going crazy. I started installing cameras that same day. Front porch, back porch, driveway. I ordered a better lock kit for the windows. I wasn't playing around. The next day, I came home from work and found something sitting on my front porch. A sandwich bag with a single house key in it. My key. I hadn't lost it. I knew exactly what that meant. He'd taken it. From my house. Probably that same night. I changed the locks that evening. Got deadbolts for every door. I even slept with the poker next to me for the next few nights. But the worst part? Brenda. She kept acting like nothing happened. Watering her garden. Waving at neighbors. Every time I saw her, I felt sick. I thought about reporting her for harassment, but again, I had no proof. Then things started escalating. I started getting notes. Small pieces of paper, left under my doormat, tucked into my mailbox, or wedged in the doorframe. You can't protect yourself forever. You made her angry. She warned you. I called the police again. They sent someone out who said it could be kids, or maybe someone messing with me. They offered to keep an eye out. That's it. I bought a gun. I've never owned one before. I hated the idea of it. But after everything, I couldn't take the chance. A week later, I caught someone on my camera. 2:13 a.m. A man in a hoodie again, same build as before. He walked right up to the back door, stared into the window for 3 full minutes, then turned and looked straight at the camera. He waved. I took that footage to the police. This time they actually paid attention. One of the officers recognized the guy. Said his name was Daryl, a known associate of Brenda's oldest son. That's when it all clicked. Brenda didn't just know the guy, she'd sent him. Or at the very least, encouraged it. They brought Daryl in for questioning, but he denied everything. Said he was just passing through. They let him go. I realized then, I was completely on my own. And that's when I decided I was going to end this. Not by calling the cops. Not by hiding in my house, waiting to be scared again. I was going to make Brenda regret ever messing with me. I started planning. Not some big dramatic thing, just quiet steps. Careful moves. The kind of revenge that sinks in slow and hits where it actually hurts. Brenda wanted control? Power? I was going to take it all away from her without laying a hand on her. First, I needed to learn everything I could about her. So I started watching. I took notes. What time she left the house. When her sons came by. What deliveries she got. Who stopped to talk to her. I found out she had a morning routine like clockwork, out on the porch by 7:45, coffee and a crossword. Inside by 8:30. Grocery runs every Tuesday and Thursday. Church Sundays at 9. I also learned something interesting. Her younger son, Jeremy, came by about once a week, always late at night. Never stayed long. I checked my camera footage. He always used the side gate. Always looked over his shoulder. And Brenda never mentioned him when she bragged about her family to neighbors. So I dug deeper. I found Jeremy's Facebook, mostly private, but a few public posts. One from 2 years ago was about getting off probation. Another mentioned finally cleaning up. A mugshot site showed me the rest. He'd been arrested 4 times, petty theft, possession, trespassing. I checked the date of one of his older arrests. It lined up exactly with a string of break-ins that happened in this same area 3 years ago. Nothing was ever proven, but people in the neighborhood were still on edge about it. I made a copy of every screenshot. Printed everything. Filed it all neatly. Then I talked to Brenda's neighbor on her other side, Ms. Ruth. She was in her 70s, mostly kept to herself, but she liked to talk once she got going. I asked if Brenda ever had problems with people around her house. She frowned and said, "You too?" That's when I knew I wasn't the only one. Turns out, Ruth had caught a guy snooping around her backyard about a month ago. When she mentioned it to Brenda, Brenda told her, "Well, maybe you should invest in better locks." Same damn thing she said to me. Ruth had reported it too. Got the same lazy police response. Said the guy didn't steal anything, just looked around. So I told Ruth everything. About the man in my yard. The key. The notes. The camera footage. Her mouth dropped open. She said, "That woman has always acted like she's better than everyone else, but I didn't think she was dangerous." That's when I made my move. Ruth agreed to back me up. We typed up a letter and sent it. Not to the police, but to the city council and the neighborhood association. We filed a formal complaint about Brenda creating an unsafe environment. We included still shots from the cameras. The notes. The connection to her son. Ruth even added her own signed statement. I knew that wouldn't be enough on its own. So I set the next part in motion. I had one of those dummy real estate signs made, not a real for sale, just the kind that looks official from a distance. One morning, I planted it in my front yard. Brenda saw it before 8 a.m. By 8:03, she was at my door. "You're moving?" she asked, that same fake sweet voice. I smiled. "Yeah. Just not feeling safe here." She smiled wider, like she'd won something. "Well, maybe that's for the best," she said. "Not everyone belongs here." That was the moment I knew she felt untouchable. 3 days later, I installed a new security system sign in my yard. Not for show. I had actually added 3 new cameras, including one on the roof aimed directly at her back door. That night, I waited. Around 1:50 a.m., movement alert. Back camera. A tall man, hoodie again. He came up along the fence line, stayed low, and crept toward my garage side door. Tried the handle. Locked. Then he turned and looked right at the camera. I watched it live. He stood there, pulled out something from his jacket, and started messing with the lock. That was it. I hit record and called the police. Told them I had live footage of a man attempting to break into my house, and that I had reported threats before. They showed up fast this time. Really fast. Caught him just as he tried to run. They arrested him on the spot. And guess who it was? Jeremy. Brenda's youngest son. But the real twist? When they ran his name, they found he had an outstanding warrant from another county, breaking and entering, same MO. That meant they had to hold him. They searched his car. Found gloves, a lockpick kit, and, get this, my spare house key. It was game over. Brenda showed up at my door the next morning. Didn't even knock, just stood there shaking. You need to fix this, she said. I looked her dead in the eye and said, no. You need to explain to the cops why your son had my key. She opened her mouth, probably to lie. I didn't give her the chance. I have footage of you telling me I didn't deserve protection. Of you smiling when that man stood in my yard. Of you saying I was too proud to lock my doors. You think the cops don't care? Maybe not. But my lawyer sure does. She didn't say another word. She turned and walked away. I watched her climb the porch stairs like her knees couldn't carry her anymore. And that was just the beginning. Brenda stopped smiling after that day. For the first week, she stayed out of sight. No porch coffee. No gardening. Nothing. Her blinds were always shut. I figured she was just scared her son was going to spill everything to the cops. But part of me also hoped she realized how far she'd pushed things. How close it had come to someone getting really hurt. But she didn't apologize. She didn't admit anything. And deep down, I knew she still didn't think she'd done anything wrong. So I made sure she'd feel the weight of what she'd done, every single day. The arrest made it into the local paper. Just a small article. Man arrested after attempted home invasion in Fort Smith suburb. They didn't use Jeremy's full name at first. But I sent a tip to the editor, anonymously, with links to his public arrest record and mugshots. I just wanted to help them connect the dots. The next week, his full name and record were printed. A few neighbors put 2 and 2 together. I didn't have to say a word. Gossip spread faster than any camera ever could. Ms. Ruth helped too. She started talking to neighbors. Nothing dramatic, just telling the truth. About what Brenda said. What she did. What she let happen. Word got around quick that Brenda's son had been creeping into backyards, and she'd protected him. A few people stopped waving to her. Then someone egged her car. Then her friends from the neighborhood Bible group stopped showing up to her porch visits. I saw her rip the little welcome friend sign off her door one morning and throw it in the trash. Still, I wasn't done. I filed a civil protection order. With the footage, the threats, and the arrest, the judge approved it immediately. It barred Brenda and her son from coming within 100 feet of my house. I added the fence line to the report. That meant if Brenda so much as stood near the edge of my yard, I could call the cops. 2 weeks later, she broke that order. I caught her outside, measuring the fence line, probably trying to prove I owed her something. I didn't even go outside. I sent the footage to the police. She was fined $1,000 and given a formal warning. But karma wasn't done with her yet. A few weeks after Jeremy's arrest, he made a deal with the DA. He gave them names, friends, people he used to work with. What none of us knew was that he'd been part of a small ring of guys breaking into homes across multiple counties. Brenda knew. And she hadn't said a word. Turns out, she had helped him, not just by encouraging him, but by hiding things. Tools. A bag of stolen jewelry. The police got a warrant and searched her house. She was arrested for obstruction and possession of stolen property. The picture of her in handcuffs, being walked to the squad car, made it to the front page of the local paper. She didn't go to jail, she was too old, and it was her first offense. But she got probation. A hefty fine. And her name was dragged through the mud. The city council voted to remove her from the neighborhood association. The final blow came from the HOA, her precious pride and joy. They fined her for creating an unsafe environment and violating multiple codes related to shared property disputes. She tried to fight it. She lost. And after all that? She put her house up for sale. No one wanted to buy it. For 6 months, the sign sat in her yard. Then she dropped the price, twice. Finally, she sold it for nearly $40,000 less than market value. The new owners? A young couple with a kid and 2 pit bulls. Loud ones. I made sure to introduce myself right away. Told them everything, not to scare them, but so they understood why there was no fence. We split the cost of a new one, real simple, fair deal. Took 2 days to put up. Brenda had to drive past that fence on her way out of town. I stood in the yard while she did. I didn't wave. I didn't smile. I just stared. And she looked away first. I know revenge doesn't fix everything. I still check my windows at night. I still don't sleep as deep as I used to. But the difference is now I'm not scared. Because I faced it. All of it. And I won't let anyone make me feel powerless again. Brenda thought she was untouchable. Now she's just gone.